Okay, we're back. We left off with the beginning of a discussion on the other gear we would carry on a backpack trip. But before I dive into that, does anyone have any questions?
Not here, LP.
Okay, great. Let's keep going. The next system or kit is for water. Here in the city we don't usually think about the need to find and purify water. On a backpack trip we do. Remember, you can only live for 3 days without water and 30 days without food, so water is essential for life. Water is not always clean. In fact, even in the wilderness, human and animal impacts have made most waterways risky to drink without purification. So will a water filter and purification tablets.
Do we need both, LP?
Good question, Lance. Not really, but it's always good to have more than one option as long as the weight-to-benefit ratio doesn't impact pack weight too much. For example, the water filter may weigh a pound but the tablet's just an ounce. There's an old saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. This speaks to the benefits of having backups. In fact, this is a good time to mention that at all times we should keep this philosophy in mind, at work, at home, in the woods. Some thoughtful redundancy is always a good hedge.
LP? If 2 is 1, does that mean 3 is 2?
Try not to get too carried away, it's not an exact science, just a rule of thumb. But thanks for the opportunity to clarify that. A. If the metal container can also double as a drinking bottle, a cook pot, and a dish to eat from, you've got a multi-use piece of gear that packs a ton of function into one item.
LP? Does that mean it would also add to the whole 2 is 1 concept?
Yes, Lance, exactly. When you have items that provide more function, it's almost like adding gear to your backup lists. The water bottle that can boil water is a good example. After water and fire, you should have a spare set of dry and warm clothing. Again, going back to the rule of threes and what can kill you first. Your sleep system and shelter is a good start for protecting yourself from hypothermia and exposure, but once you have water and fire handled, it's best to move back to clothing. The clothes you bring should be lightweight, warm, even when wet, and you should have some kind of rain shell. Here in the city we can duck into a Starbucks on any corner. But in the woods we're on our own. So being able to throw on a lightweight waterproof layer can keep the clothes on your back dry longer. Next up is food. While you can survive 30 days without food, your energy level will drop tremendously if you miss 3 meals, especially if you're doing a lot of physical activity.
LP? What kind of food can we bring?
Typically you'd bring lightweight freeze-dried food that just requires water and cooking to reconstitute. But lots of other low-cost shelf-stable foods work too, like rice. Since there is no refrigeration in the woods, unless you're camping in the snow, all the food you bring should be shelf-stable and lightweight. So no canned food, for example. Dry food that you have to add water to is better too, assuming you plan to camp near a water source. If you camp near a lake or river, you may even be able to fish, if it's legal. The next thing I'd suggest packing is a first aid kit. This should contain the basics for first aid: bandages, ways to stop bleeding, moleskin for blisters, and some basic meds. Having some first aid training is also always a good idea too. The first aid kit should also be easy to get to in your pack, ideally in an outside pocket or attached to the side. Next up would be a personal hygiene kit with just the basics. No blow dryers or electric razors in the woods. No power outlets in the forest, and these alliances are heavy. Ultralight backpackers go to extremes even in their hygiene kits by cutting down toothbrush length, bringing old-fashioned tooth powder, tiny wet wipe packets instead of toilet paper, tiny hair combs, multi-use bandana for washing, and skipping non-essentials like deodorant, makeup, perfume, mouthwash, nail clippers, and so on. One sec folks, that's my phone. I've got to take this call. It will just take a minute. I'll be right back with you.